I'm going to share with you how Aaron went from barely scraping by as a videographer to earning $10,000 plus per month consistently. When he started his business, he was driving hours across Texas for low paying clients, but after implementing these key creative business systems, he was able to build consistent income, and now he has the freedom to work on his own terms. If you're a creative struggling to make your business profitable, this case study reveals the exact process that transformed Aaron's career and can do the same for you. So without further explanation, let's dive into Aaron's videography journey.
Hello, hello. We got Aaron here. Aaron is one of my first clients in Creative Biz Launch all the way back in December 22 when we first launched. Aaron joined with a soft launch. And today, Aaron's here to kind of talk about his experience working with me, how his company has grown over the past 2 years, and what his life looks like today. So I guess to start, would love to hear about kind of yourself, your creative business journey. Tell us like who you are, how long you've been growing your company, and like kind of what you do and who you help.
Yeah, right on, man. Thanks for having me, Chris. It's cool, kind of full circle moment. I don't want to say the circle is closed yet because I know there's still a lot more to go, but it's cool to be back here chatting with you after, past 2 years. It's been incredible. So
Yeah.
a little bit of backstory about myself is just like I've been in the creative world for a long time, just as probably many of the people who work with you or know of you, just like them, right? Like where it's you've been in the creative world for a long time, or you're super passionate about it and you just want to learn more. So my career started like in college. A little bit before college is when I started taking photos.
Hmm.
I started taking photos in college, charging people, $20, $30, literally like pocket change just to get like groceries or a meal, at a fast food restaurant. Then fast forward after college, I got a job at a marketing firm, and we basically just did real estate photography, real estate videography all the time. So I was traveling all across Texas. Literally, like one day I'd be in Central Texas, the next day I'd be in Houston, and then I'd be in all the way in West Texas. And if you're not familiar with Texas, it's massive. So it's like I'm driving hours in one direction and driving hours back just to get back home. So it was brutal. Like it became a grind. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like this isn't fun to me anymore because it became more of just like, and I wasn't working for myself at the time. It was just like I was getting the same rate no matter how far I drove or wherever. So then 2020-ish is when I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take the leap and I'm gonna go all in on my business and I'm gonna start my own thing. So that was terrible. Like it was cool. It was like freedom and all this stuff, but then like you just don't know what you're doing. I had no clue. Like I would send like 5 emails and I'd be like, now I just wait. I'm just waiting for the money to come in, you know?
Yeah, playing that
Um,
waiting game early on, just trying kind of like
yeah,
everything, seeing what sticks, like throwing like eggs against the wall.
yeah, it was crazy, man. Like I remember vividly, like there was like a period of like 6 months where I didn't have any jobs worth. I mean, I had a couple of gigs, but like $100, $200, $75. I had a consistent client that gave me $75 a shoot. Awful. It was a cool shoot. It was at a comedy club in downtown Austin, but like it was not a good,
Hmm.
payday. And then I was just like, what do I do? Like I had to get another job, all this stuff, and I was just like, what do I do? And then I actually stumbled upon your YouTube content. Like that's how I first got introduced to you. It wasn't Instagram or anything like that. It was your YouTube. Um, and it was cool because like you're a super nice guy. Like you're nice, you present well, you come off as a very ethical person, and you knew what you were talking about. And so I got into the ecosystem. I just started getting your content, and I started consuming it and consuming it. And then the next thing you know, like I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna, like you launched your Creative Biz Launch 1.0, like the very
Hmm.
first one, and I was like, I think we got to do this. Um, and it was significantly, more affordable at the time or cheaper because like I don't know, the launch group and but to me, that was a lot, it was a ton of money
Hmm.
at the time. And so then I was just like, I think we got to do this. So we did, we bought in, and then like the immediately like the glass ceiling shattered. Like even like the transformation happens a lot of times in the transaction. So just by purchasing it,
Hmm.
I was able to just be like, okay, now I'm betting on myself and I'm all in on this. And so diving into the course itself, man, like it changed the game because it taught me really like the fundamentals of how to start my business. Because like up until then, I hadn't really started it, to be honest with you. And I like how you laid it out from literally like zero to scaling, right? There's a huge gap in between there, but it's like if you have never started and you just picked up a camera, where you're gonna teach the whole business side from like establishing an LLC, getting an email, all this stuff. And so I like to call it like the fundamentals of business. And this is where I learned the fundamentals, which I'm from, I used to play sports all the time, basketball. Fundamentals are huge in sports. If you don't have that, then you really aren't going to be good. And so I look at it the same with business. So, anyways, dove into the course, and it wasn't like an immediate transformation in terms of like me started to make tons of money. But as time went on, you build that momentum as you send these emails and you reach out to different people and you know exactly what you're saying and how to say it, and you're even confident on the meeting and sales side. It changes the game, because then you're like, I have a playbook now, and all I got to do is run it. All I got to do is run it on repeat, and when I get bored, it doesn't matter, just go back, you know. And so it didn't take too long. It was only like a few months that I started to see more income because of the clientele I was getting. Like it just shifted.
Mhm.
I was no longer charging for like hours or, my time, but like the value that the project was worth to them, right? And so that was a huge shift. And then um, I think it probably took me anywhere from 3 to 4 months to land my first like high ticket client, which is like 2 grand, which is awesome,
Mhm.
over double what I had ever asked for before. And then from there, it just snowballed. Like you build confidence when you get a win. And then I think the next year, not like maybe not a year exactly from the date of taking the program, but the following year, because I think I bought it midway through the year or something like that. Um, I was making like a consistent 3 to 5K a month, right? Which was huge because I went from nothing. I literally
Mhm.
had $0 and I had to work another job. And that first 3 to 5K is massive for your confidence, for your financial life. Like even if you like, we don't, me and my wife don't do much. We're not like crazy spenders, but like we didn't have to worry about much anymore. We got had our necessities taken care of, our bills paid for, food, roof over our head. Like we had everything we needed. And so then it was like, okay, how can we do this more? And so then you just dive in deeper to the course and you learned a little bit deeper into the systems, a little bit of the automation, and how to scale a little bit, right? And scaling is relative to where you are, but essentially I just kept running the play. And then now where we're at today, I'm getting like this year has been my best year so far, and I'm consistently hitting anywhere from 6 to 10K months regularly throughout the year, and that's some reoccurring, some new clientele, which is incredible. Um, and yeah, man, it's been an absolute game changer. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you want to get in proximity of somebody who does, somebody who's already done it. And so like Chris is the guy for that when it comes to creative business.
Man, that hearing that story is like I've talked to you before about like your experience with the program, but I haven't heard like that full story before. So that's awesome to hear that you went from
Yeah.
like pretty much like zero to like getting consistent like 6 to 10K a month, which is what I love. You mentioned like the fundamentals really helped like early on just to get like the base of the pyramid going. What were the most impactful like drivers like later on? Like once you start getting like repeat clients, you're like, okay, this is kind of working. What were the things that were most helpful in actually like growing and scaling? Because I know we do like we have like that
Mhm.
client acquisition system in the program that's mainly like cold email and some social stuff, and then like the sales processes and the automations. What like one or two things there were like most helpful in getting you from like okay, we're at like 2K per project. How are we going to get to like 10K a month?
hmm So a big thing with you, which I really appreciate, is like onboarding, right? And fulfillment. Because I think if you don't properly onboard people after they spend a lot of money with you, then they get the jitters. They're like, okay, second thoughts. I don't know if we should actually do this, right? And so you just want to confirm the transaction. You want to confirm that they made the right choice when they're buying. And so the onboarding process is a huge help in sending out like a welcome email, sending them like mood boards, like all that stuff comes into play, and it makes them feel like they made the right decision. So that's a big part of it right there. Um, I think the consistency aspect of it. And I will say this is just a credit to like, maybe you or your character or whatever. But when I see your content, excuse me, on social, it's motivating and it's inspiring because I see you like really just being consistent, even if it's not the same lane I'm in, like I don't care because I see you doing it day after day after day after day after day. And that's just inspiring because it means that I can do it too, whatever that is. And so the consistency for my business is outreach, because cold outreach can be boring. It can be, super tedious, and like sometimes it feels like you're spinning your wheels and there's nothing to show for it. But like that's not true. It's always working, right? And what I like to say is like if it's not working for you, then it's working on you. So there's like a two-part fold to what's going on with your cold outreach and how it's working, for you or your business. So it teaches you the resiliency, which is what I like about it. It's kind of like a deeper meeting, kind of whatever. But so the
I love
onboarding,
that.
the cold outreach aspect of it, and then I think systemizing it, just like getting a procedure down that you can repeat simply and easily, has been a game changer. And I'm actually at the point now where I'm actually about to hire. And so I'm going back and I'm watching your editor stuff because that's the person I need to hire as an editor. So like I'm taking notes and I'm going through a process right now to figure out a system and a process that my editor can simply follow. That way we can crank out more work and I can stop being the bottleneck in that regard too. So it's been good.
Man, I love that. Yeah, I'm so big on systems, and I've over the years have like made this program more like systems oriented and calling it almost like a business systems program because I think that might be what it is. But I like what you said about the onboarding and like the fulfillment pipeline because I think that's something a lot of creatives miss. In the first version of the Creative Biz Launch, there was a really big focus on like client acquisition and getting like sales. And then when I redid the program this past summer, we kept all that in there, but I really doubled down on like the fulfillment side because that's what I found in my own business is like it's hard to land one client, but once you land them, it's a lot easier to like 10x their value versus trying to land like 10 other clients. So
Yeah.
that's where like the entire onboarding process really comes in, like making sure that like what you said, like the transformation happens as a transaction,
Hmm.
reinforcing their decision really quickly, and just like making sure that they feel like they're in good hands, they made the right choice here. So like the sales process, it doesn't really ever end because like once you like convince them to work with you, you're still kind of like selling the back end like with a
Yeah.
really good customer experience, so that they like become a retainer client, you get them good results, and also they tell their friends about you, their other business owners, other peers. So I love that you mentioned the onboarding there.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to ask what your I'm not really big into hypotheticals personally,
Sure.
but like looking back, if you didn't take like this program, if you didn't invest back in like December 2022, where do you think you would be at like today? What do you think like the trajectory of your business would have been?
Yeah, I think yeah, I think I could probably speak for a lot of people when it's like you the first step is always the scariest, right? And so there's this mentality that has been really prevalent, for business owners for forever, right? And I think up until recently, like the coaching and consulting era that we're kind of in through digital, I think people think that they're going to figure it out on their own, which I think is a good mentality in terms of just like willing to do the work that it takes. But there is a aspect of that that's like you have to put your pride aside sometimes. And if you really want the goal, then you'll do what it takes. And sometimes that looks like getting help from people who have already done it. And so if I hadn't had taken this course and bought into your program and like broken these glass ceilings and limiting beliefs for myself, I really don't think I would be doing either this full time or maybe even at all, because this was like the first step to many other steps I've taken to better myself and grow my business and to grow my mentality, my mindset. And so, yeah, I mean, like, there's no telling where I'd be, but I have a feeling it would be probably working some sort of corporate style job, which there's nothing wrong with, but um, it's not what I wanted. And
Mhm.
it's not what I want still. It's not what I want for my family, my future family, my growing family. And so, yeah, man, I don't think it would be, definitely wouldn't be like in this spot, the spot I'm at
Yeah,
now.
I'm glad you're here. You mentioned earlier like the transformation happens at the transaction, and that's something that like my business coach like Dan Martellus does all the time. Like when we invest in ourselves, we almost like give ourselves permission to um, work harder towards whatever it is that we are that we want. We're telling ourselves that hey, we're worth it. We believe in ourselves, so we're putting skin in the game, and this whatever we're investing in. Hopefully, you've looked at like testimonials and case studies to see if it would work for other people. And like once you know that it works for other people and those people look like you, well, then once you invest in the program, it kind of is on you to kind of show up, make it work, and really apply everything to the best of your ability. And that's where the transformation of at the transaction kind of really hits home for
Yeah.
me. You mentioned something that I don't really ever like advertise about my program is like the limiting beliefs that you broke. Cause I like whenever I talk about my program, I'm like, all right, this is like a step-by-step client acquisition system. It'll teach you like everything to go from like 0 to 6 figures. But I don't really mention like the limiting beliefs in the program. But I know for me, like whenever I'm in like these other coaching programs, seeing people just showing me like what's possible in terms of how much I can charge, how many clients I can work with, how much effort is required to get those clients. Do you have like one or two limiting beliefs that were broken when you first joined the program? I know you mentioned you were able to like double your rates pretty
Mhm.
quickly. Are there like any other beliefs that were broken?
Yeah, I think that I have a yeah, man, like a kind of one of the ones I touched on was thinking I could do it by myself, which I can and I will, but also like there's guidance and mentorship that goes into that, right? So investing into mentors wasn't something I'd ever even considered. And I feel like most people, getting into this world or really any entrepreneurial endeavor, unless you're in a group that already talks about it, you don't ever think about that. So like breaking the belief that I don't need to use help was a huge one for me because now it's
Mm.
opened the doors to like really like getting more information from people who've already done it quicker, thus making my results expedited. Like they're tremendously faster than probably you did, Chris, right? Which is the whole goal of your program is to get people to the point to where they're, hitting these goals at 10x the time that it took you, right? Or like, faster than it took you
Hmm.
essentially. And so that was one of them. And then I would say another one would be sales doesn't have to be like an icky thing. It doesn't have to be something that's like sleazy because at the end of the day, we're providing valuable assets. And I don't think that, you know, charging what you're worth or charging what the value is based on the project is a bad thing because when you think about sales, you think about, all these like used car salesmen, things you hear and
Hmm.
sleazy salespeople and I don't know. That's just not true, and that's just not true at all. I think you could be a really good person and be ethical in your sales and your processes. And actually, that makes you a better salesperson by having these by breaking the limiting beliefs that you think sales is a bad thing. You'll be a better salesperson and you'll serve people at a higher level.
Yeah, I love that you said that at the end there. That's what my coach teaches me like right now. It's like if you truly believe like whatever service you have can help other people, it kind of becomes your duty to help those people, and you can do that best through selling yourself. And it's not like jamming or like trying to push this as hard as possible. It's more about like matchmaking, seeing like, hey, I know this has helped hundreds of people before. You kind of seem like the ideal client. Let's start a
Hmm.
conversation, see if this can help you. And if it can, let's move forward. If it can't, no worries, no stress there. And kind
Yeah.
of like approaching sales from like matchmaking and more like ethical selling rather than like the sleazy salesperson, which that's the belief
Yeah.
I had when I started my business. I people said like, hey, you have to learn sales. And I was picturing like Wolf of Wall Street, and that's not who I want to be. So it was really nice
Hmm.
to have those beliefs broken.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, sales is more of like you're persuading people, right, to make a decision that you know and they know will help them. There's just like that either it's a limiting belief on their behalf or something keeping them from doing it, right? And it's like once that transaction is made, then that's broken and like they not only you skyrocket your confidence, but they'll skyrocket their confidence and everybody wins essentially. So that's the cool
Hmm.
part about it.
Yeah, and like I think that's really important too. Like everyone can win. Like there's a lot of room for so many like business owners, creatives to just like both win from the transaction where the creative, they get paid and they love to do what they their favorite thing in the world, right? And then the business owner that you're working for, well, they get like great assets that they can use for marketing, for sales, for whatever. And like both businesses grow as a result of that sale, of that deal being closed. And that's exactly what you want. Those are the best clients because they're going to keep staying around for a while because you're actually helping them generate revenue in their business. So finding those is so key. Okay, I have, I think, just one or two more questions here. You
Cool.
kind of alluded to this earlier with like your family life and stuff. But outside of like the business, how has what's been like different for you personally since like you were able to grow your business faster? Like, do you have more free time to spend like with your wife and your kid? How's that been?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Um, yeah, man, I think with anything, there's a serious like there's a period of like grinding, and there's a period of like when you can kind of automate, systemize, productize. I think we're kind of catching that stride right now where like we go through waves in that still. We're like, I'm like, okay, Tay, my wife's name is Tay, and she's like, I'm like, listen, I think we should go for this goal, right? Which is going to cause for a short period of like a grind, right? Where I'm like
Mm,
working maybe a little later, getting there a little earlier to the office. But overall, it's like the cool thing about entrepreneurship and like when you have a system and you have it dialed in, you can create your schedule. Like I work out at 3 o'clock, or like I go home at 3 o'clock, right? To work out at 3:30 or 4, whatever time I want, and then I'm done for the day. Like I don't have to work
mm.
from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, you know? And I think even on like vacations, we have, we've taken a couple vacations to like Florida to visit her mom or to visit family. And it's been awesome, man. Like you don't have to stress about it when you know that things are getting taken care of on the back end, you know? So I think the biggest freedom that it's caused me is like the mental freedom, not being like worried about like, oh crap, when is this check coming in, or when are we going to get paid, or how am I going to get another client? I think that stress and that like mental bandwidth has been freed up to enjoy moments like that more. So not for me personally, I really enjoy working. Like I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a passion of mine now. Like before it was like the creative side was the passion. Now I'm like
Mm.
all in on the business side. And I think your course has helped with that and like your content. And um for me, it's like a mental thing. It's like, how much free time do I have mentally? Because like, I'll work all day, I'll work all weekend. I don't really care. But I choose to not work on the weekends or on Sundays specifically. Sometimes I'll work a Saturday if I want, but like,
Mm.
like you have the mental freedom to do whatever you want. So that's the coolest part.
Yeah, that kind of flexibility, I mean, that's the perk of owning your own business. You get to set your
Yeah.
hours, you can work as much or as little as possible.
Yep.
But you mentioned there, like at the end, that you've kind of like fallen in love with working, and I've experienced the same thing. And at least for me, it's happened like once I start getting more and more wins, I start like enjoying work a lot more just because like the effort that you're putting in is generating really good results. I know like when I started, it was just that long grind of like, yeah, you're winning, but these are like really small projects and they it doesn't really almost feel like winning. So you almost start to dread work. And that's what leads to burnout, in my opinion. But once you get like aligned with like the work that you're doing, it's for like a good cause, you feel good about it and you're able to like have a solid income. That's when like work becomes almost like addicting and like you just want to keep building because you know what you're capable of and you know that you can get results if you put the effort in. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you feel that way now.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. It's like I don't know, Hormozy calls it a game.
Yeah.
I think it is a game. Like it's fun. Like once you get to a certain point, it's fun and like, you know, you don't want to stop. But I think the cool part is like having that control to just be like, okay, like I could take a break today, or I could take a day off. Having the flexibility and the freedom to do that. Um, yeah, and also I think that you just have the ability to make your own rules, which is just the coolest thing, It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's it. Like you can build your business the way you want to. You can like take pieces from other people's business, say like, hey, I want to do it this way, but this other thing
Hmm.
I'm doing my way. There's so much flexibility and so many different paths to take.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome watching your journey. I don't have any other questions for you here, but it's just been really great to like hear and like watch you grow over the years, honestly, because I mean, I've we check in on each other pretty often, I think. And just seeing the transformation, it's been very like apparent for me, even like the way you show up on camera and like the how you talk about yourself and how the confidence you have when you're talking about your service. It's transformed over the years since I've known you. So it's
Yeah.
been really awesome to watch, Aaron.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. You play a big part in this. So like I'm appreciative of your content, your core, like your program is like it's transformational. And the big part of that is like, I want people to hear this. I know this is gonna be put out. It's like I want people to hear this part, but like it is what you put into it, right? So like Chris has literally taken his years of trial and error and suffering and making no money and all this like hard work, and he's put into a roadmap of like, hey, if you do this, you do this, you do this, and you do this, and he's even got it in a pretty good order too. Like it is the exact order you should probably do it in, right? For most beginners or most people who don't know anything about the business side. If you just follow the playbook, then you'll see success, right? And that doesn't mean tomorrow, but like you just put in the hard work and the effort, and you just have to make the most of it every single day, and you'll see growth and you'll see the fruits of your work. So yeah,
Yeah.
man, appreciate you.
Man, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. Like that's why I do this. Like it's to help the people who were in my shoes like a few years ago. Like that's who I want to most impact with this. And I love that you mentioned the roadmap part because this past summer when we redid the program, we kind of created this like almost new roadmap where you can like plug yourself into the system depending on like what your revenue is at. So what I say is if you're between 0 and 20K a month, you will grow in this program. But that's a big range. So what we've done is like if you're at 0, you can start at this point. If you're already making like $7,000 a month, then you can skip a few things and we tell you like where to plug in to make the most out of the program. So that's like one change I'm pretty excited about, just like knowing where to enter the program so that you can get the most benefit from it in the fastest
Yeah,
amount of time possible or
that's
shortest
awesome,
amount
man.
of time possible. Um, but yeah, man, anything else you want to share here? That's all I got here.
Um, that's it, man. That's it. Learn the
Sweet.
fundamentals, and it'll take you to great places.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thanks so much, Aaron. Really appreciate your
Yes, sir.
time here and
Yes, sir.
take the time to do this.
Yep. All right. See you, man.